Fat people. Why do we hate them so much? Could it be because of their bad personalities, or is it because of stigma and misinformation? New Zealand has one of the highest obesity rates in the Western world, according to everyone's favourite racist measure designed centuries ago to assess white populations and not individual people. But is being fat actually bad for you? Is being fat bad? Am I bad because I'm fat? And if I was skinny, could I still be a bad girl? So I've been on a diet since I was 10 years old. Like, I had been fat my whole life. I did Weight Watchers when I was 10 with the books at home, and I've been doing yo-yoing my whole entire life. So we're going to do a little a flip card game where I'm going to show you a picture of me at various times in my life, and you can and I'd like you to guess whether I was fat or not.
You just told me you were fat all your life.
I know. I've given away the game. Okay, how about this one?
And what, in fact,
Here we
by
go.
what terms?
BMI.
Oh, you're stuck on that BMI. Yeah, so that would be is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah, significantly overweight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, it's brutal to hear you say that, actually. Poor kid.
Yeah.
What do you feel? What are your feelings in general about kind of like society's attitude towards fat people? Are you comfortable with the term fat people?
Well, I think we're in a society where we are more susceptible to, we can stigmatise people by labels and words and all the rest of it. So I take people as they are and who they are and just accept that. I don't care what people look like.
Yeah. But do you feel like there is a stigma out there?
To be off the top of my head, I can't look. I can't say. I don't know.
Do you feel like society sees fatness as neutral?
Oh, fuck no. Not at all.
All right. How do you think society sees it?
It's the worst thing you could possibly be.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of the only acceptable system of oppression to perpetuate because it's seen as this moral failing on you. Fat people are less likely to receive health diagnostics, healthcare options, education, employment. There's all these different layers that fat people are restricted from accessing their human rights.
Right.
But the way that society sees it is you're fat because you have no self-control, you can't exercise, you don't do the things that you're meant to do to be a good person, and that's why you're fat. It's because you're a bad person.
I will say that once I realised I was gay, I was like, cool, fine, sweet. But, like, I'm still like, oh, fat. Getting my head around it, and being comfortable with it.
I think the stigma is pervasive and it influences everything, it's everywhere, and the medical fraternity aren't any different. Decades ago, I stopped telling people to lose weight, although when I trained, that was just the absolute mantra of diabetes clinics. We would coerce, we would encourage, we would reinforce. And it was quite a long way into the piece where I worked out that I would see people who were highly motivated, who were determined that they were going to lose weight, had plenty of money to go and buy all the healthy food. 6 months down the track, a year down the track, they were the same weight. Yeah. And I thought, hang on, if these people can't lose weight, who can? Yeah. This is just sort of prescribing bad medicine. And in fact, it really was bad medicine because not only was it totally ineffectual, but it also did harm.
What do you mean it did harm?
Well, I think if a doctor prescribes a medicine which doesn't work, then quite rightly, a patient will come back and complain.
Yes.
But if you prescribe weight loss, for example, and it doesn't work, the patient comes back full of, embarrassment and, they feel the shame. So you actually make people feel worse. Yeah. I mean, I really, really think that telling people to lose weight is harmful.
Is the weight of the population something that you are concerned about?
We hear, not just here but around the world, about the obesity or epidemic.
Yes.
So at the same time, we're also seeing this rise in things like higher blood pressure, more diabetes, more those sorts of things. People and health experts say there is a correlation, therefore we should think about having some sort of response.
I mean, the thing is, at the core of that, right, is fixing the fat and stopping people from becoming fat, right?
Yeah.
So inherently it's fat is bad again. In reality, a lot of times the fatness doesn't actually impact the health. And the science that they're using, the BMI, for example, is maths. And it was to kind of measure populations, like white male populations.
Right.
200 odd years ago.
So how does that apply to, I don't know, I guess Pacific or Māori populations in New Zealand?
It doesn't...
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't factor in Māori and Pacific body types.
Yeah.
Māori pre-colonisation didn't have a concept of obesity, didn't have this understanding that fatness was bad.
Right.
Like a lot of the te reo Māori kupu for fat also mean nourishment, plentiful, fertile.
And then what happened post-colonisation?
I guess there was this big urban shift, so a lot of European rules and structures taking place over Māori ways of being, and kind of this reclassification of bodies as deviant. So fat brown bodies are the bad bodies, and thin white bodies are the good bodies.
Yeah.
Based on maths.
I want to try and lower my BMI by increasing my height.
How's it going?
If you want to look at fatness in terms of a health risk, what seems to be the most important thing is the amount of fat that you have in your abdomen.
Right. Okay.
So, you can have a big booty and you can be very healthy if you've got a tiny waist. And some people are like that,
Yeah. Bad for all the pear-shaped people out there.
Exactly.
Or I don't know. I actually don't know which fruit I am, but I assume it's the bad one.
No, I think apples is probably worse.
Apples is the worst one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm a bad apple.
But I absolutely think that, our body size is pretty much out of our control. Absolutely out of our control.
Really?
Because it's genetic and environmental. So in the really obesogenic environment that we have in most Western countries.
What does that mean, obesogenic?
So promoting obesity. So obesity promoting environments.
Okay.
So if you take somebody who's a naturally fat person and you put them in the desert, and ask them to scrabble around for hoo-hoo bugs and drink water, they will become thin,
Yes.
And if you take somebody who's naturally thin, maybe you can make them, fat by giving them nothing but junk food or whatever. Yeah. But basically, we are as our genes determine. And so our environment, enables us to reach our genetic potential.
There's these environments, often Māori and Pacific environments in Auckland, for example, that only have fast food. So you don't have the option of buying fresh, non-processed foods.
Yeah.
So that accessibility issue comes into it too.
Yeah.
And the price of like a cabbage is $7 at the moment,
Yeah. It feels like you've got a personal thing about cabbage. I just got to get this cabbage thing out.
I like me some cabbage, but I don't like paying $7 for cabbage.
Okay, what about this one?
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell?
Yeah.
Fat.
Yeah. What's the point of this?
You don't know.
It's just,
This one?
That we are the way we are, aren't we? That's
I'm the turkey.
Oh, shit. Impossible to tell.
Yeah, fat. But juicy. Do you personally subscribe to the idea that your weight is in some ways out of your control?
I think there's things a lot of people can do, like diet, like activity and stuff, that has an impact on their weight.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree it's entirely environmental.
Is that part of the hesitancy to then be making environmental changes?
Oh, no. I think we should be considering all those things as we do. There are a whole lot of factors that are barriers to making good choices. Poverty is one.
Yes.
Places where people live.
Yeah.
And not having access to the various supports and health is another. Expensive foods is another. So just saying government can regulate, it's a possibility, but it's by no means the only possible answer. And what the health practitioners say is the more we can do to get people to make good choices for the reasons that they want and understand, makes it more likely it's going to be enduring.
I can't stand the personal choice argument for body size management, and that's become a kind of core thing because, I reckon that telling people to change their weight is like telling them to change their eye colour. Yeah, I know that's bad. So people who become hooked on some kind of physical activity that's new to them, that's the one exception. So people who become marathon runners.
Yes, here we go. Here's a picture of me after completing a half marathon.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thin.
No. Oh. I was overweight, big time.
Well, the sign's hiding half of you.
I lost a big amount of weight recently through a very stressful whānau health event. Not eating, not sleeping, just surviving. And then you get complimented. Then you get noticed. Then you get people going, oh, you look good. Because it's okay for you to look like you've lost weight, no matter how you've done it. And so you're having this mind fuck with yourself going, oh, but I should take advantage of it, right? Yeah. Also at the core of that is, if I become fat, I get treated badly.
Yeah, right.
Implicitly, people understand how that privilege works, but they don't see it as privilege. They see it as something they've earned.
It is so insidious. Like, I remember the first time I ever wrote like a column and I read the Facebook comments on it, because this was years ago, and I obviously I know better now, but there were like dozens of comments impeaching my argument, which I was like, yeah, all right. And then one of them called me a fat cunt, and I was like, that one hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm here doing this kōrero, and I know once it's released, there's going to be shitloads of comments about my weight. Yeah. So like reinforcing the point, right? Yeah. But that's just what happens.
This isn't the light. Sorry. Oh, God. I honestly, the thing as I go on further down this episode is like, I don't know what people's takeaway is going to be, because I still don't know if we've landed on the conversation that we should be having around fatness.
It's not a matter of personal responsibility. This is the way you are. Yeah. This is the way you are. And you have to be happy and healthy in ways that doesn't obsess about your, over your weight.
Yeah. When you realise, like, according to the BMI, 50% of New Zealanders are overweight or obese, you go, okay, so there are a lot of people here experiencing a certain type of life and has associated with it a certain level of stigma. Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if our trepidation to actually talk openly, even to use terms like fatness, leads to dragging our feet a bit of hesitancy, yeah.
So I do, my big sort of thing I do to just get away from this thing is mountain biking. So I make sure, at least in the weekend, I try and get a ride. Now, I ride around the hills. People of all sorts of shapes and sizes riding bikes, and people who I might describe as having a high BMI, to be polite about it. So I think that's the important thing, is that people just get on and do stuff.
Here's the situation, right? Here's why I was like, if I live in a world that stigmatises being fat and I can't be thinner, what then do I do to live a happy life?
Yeah, so I think what you do is you concentrate on being well. So just because you're fat doesn't mean you're going to end up with diseases on the basis of it. It's just a risk factor, And actually, if anything, of course, once you get very much older, your weight starts to fall. Yeah. And once you get the evidence is that beyond, somewhere in your 70s, then being a high weight is no longer adversely associated with health problems. In fact, it's protective.
Oh, God.
You just hang in there.
The curve of this being good for me is going to finally turn in my direction. Do you think it's as likely that I'll change my BMI by losing weight as I would by increasing my height?
I caught you smiling. I caught you smiling back at me. If this is the way love starts, then please start it continuously. I see you smiling. Now that you're smiling back at me, I swear that the world has stopped for the beautiful smile I see. Your eyes are gleaming, nothing to doubt now.